Welcome to Travel, Pray, Slay, a podcast for professional women who travel, love God, and are ready to level up their life. On the podcast, we discuss all things travel, faith, career, love, and lifestyle, all focused on helping you take the next steps you need to bring your visions into reality and live the extraordinary life God created for you to live. If you love Jesus, Beyonce, and catching flights, then look no further because you have found your tribe, sis. I'm your host, Toya Nicole, and I can't wait to get into today's episode with you. Welcome to another episode of Travel, Pray, Slay. And I am so excited for today's guest that we have with us today. So without further ado, because we have a very juicy conversation that we want to get into. Anytime you talk about dating, it's always juicy. And I'm so excited to be joined by my sister, my friend, my former business partner, everything, Renee Bolton. So Renee, welcome to the Travel, Pray, Slay podcast. Introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Well, Toya, thank you very much for having me. I'm so excited to be on Travel, Pray, Slay and be a part of your podcast. This is so wonderful and I'm so proud of you. So I want to start off by saying that.
Oh, thank you, boo.
You're so welcome. And secondly, a little bit about me. I am just a girl that's from Chicago, born and raised from the South Side. Hey, Michelle. And I love beauty. I love all things beauty. I have been in the beauty industry for years, and that's where my career has grown into. And now I've definitely turned a corner in where I am and what I'm doing. And I'm all about Jesus. Now, the beauty of Jesus.
You know, we rep Jesus on this podcast.
Right. So I'm also an author, a podcast host as well, too. And I love to write. I discovered my love for writing when I was in the 8th grade and wrote poetry. A lot of people don't know that about me, is that sometimes I still write poetry every now and then when I feel the mood. But then that poetry, as the years had gone on and being in the beauty industry, that's when I started writing and wrote my first book, #I'm Beauty Inspired, Keepsake Journal of Original Beauty Quotes and Affirmations for women and girls to embrace their inner beauty and apply more self-love. Awesome. And that's what I've been doing.
Awesome. So what the biggest thing I heard there at the end, you were talking about your book. You went really fast, but no worries. At the end of this podcast, you all will get all the information that you need to be able to learn about Renee's book and follow her on social media. But because we're talking about relationships today, I want to jump in on that piece that you just said about self-love. So today we really want to talk about relationship values. So there has been a lot of talk around expectations when it comes to dating, ranking yourself, should you be dating average? Should you be dating high value men? And I think it has gotten people so off kilter, if you will, about what's really important in relationships, right? And so not only what's really important in relationships, but how you show up in relationships and the work that needs to be done. And so you touched on self-love. So let's start there before we get into what we require of someone else in love. How does self-love play into love and dating relationships from your perspective?
From my perspective, self-love is where you start. If you don't love yourself, how can you possibly love someone else or expect someone else to love you properly?
Yeah.
So you have to love who you are, where you are, and your current situation of whatever it is that you are going through, whatever season you're in, and things of those sorts. Because if you don't love that, then how can you effectively give love to someone else or ask someone to give love back to you?
Yeah, I agree. And, people always talk about, oh, love yourself, love yourself. But no, truly love yourself from a place of not seeking it from someone else. And to me, the reason I think self-love is big, because for me, romantic relationships are truly about partnership and not just some type of you pay half the bills, I, do this partnership type of deal. Like, you truly want to be with someone that you can like partner in life with.
Yes.
And I feel complement you, right? And so a relationship should not come along to complete you. I believe relationships come along to complement you and to help you fulfill purpose in life, right? And so that piece of self-love and coming to the table with that is important, because you're right. You have to love yourself before anybody else can. And you can get caught up in codependency.
Yes.
When you expect someone else to fill that cup for you. So how has self-love changed for you as you've gotten older, right? As you've gone through relationships, as you've gone through life circumstances?
Self-love has changed for me in so many different ways. It's so funny because I've gone through different seasons where my self-love has gone up, it's gone down, it's gone in many different directions. It wasn't until, when I was in my 20s, I was fearless and literally did not have a care in the world and really loved myself. But I also struggled with things from time to time because I grew up in a relationship or being surrounded, not in a relationship, but I grew up being surrounded by abuse. My father abused my mom. So I was a witness to domestic violence. I was a victim of domestic violence in high school, and I'm a survivor now of domestic violence.
Yeah.
And so self-love has always been an up and down thing for me. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until I had gotten into my 40s where I really started to find myself. Yeah. I really started to love who I was and not letting men or people, for that matter, because you can have issues in self-love with parents. You can have issues in self-love with friends. It can go in all different directions. It's not just a man to a woman or a woman to a man or spouse or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So for me, just learning, it was just learning and discovering myself and letting go of shame and going through therapy, going through small groups as well too, and just church that has helped me to really love who I am, where I am, and understanding whose I am.
Yeah.
And having people to respect that.
Yes. And I do. You touch on church. And so even as it relates to self-love, that importance of knowing you are loved by God and embracing God's love. Like, that's how I think about it. I first embrace God's love. That helps me to love myself, remembering I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. Remember that He has chosen me. Remember that I'm loved by Him, and start loving myself. And then easier to love someone else, easier to receive love from somebody else. So thank you for sharing that story. And I want to get into that later when we talk about healthy relationships, because so much of what we go through, whether it's childhood trauma or adult trauma, as it relates to relationship, ends up playing into what we view as a healthy or unhealthy relationship, right? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about list in dating. So, okay, everybody has gone through this, right? You have your list. And I will share that there was a point in my life where my list looked a lot like 6'5" and up, or 6 feet and up. Although I have somebody 6'5" and up. 6 feet and up. He gotta, be muscular. Specifically, I want him to have buff arms.
Right.
College degree, gotta make this much. He better know how to hang a suit well. And yes, basic things like, okay, hygiene, loves Jesus, all those kind of things, right? And so then you go about the world, like meeting people, going out, and it's like, oop, too short. oh, really? Like, y'all, my friends know this, but like a darker skinned man. And I even at one point was hating on my caramel skin and lighter skin brothers. So, you go through this, and to be frank, you start going through these lists and lists and lists, and you either meet. Now, to say that I met people that met those qualities, absolutely. Oh, you meet them. And I'm like, boom, unicorn, this is it. And then the relationship don't work out. And I'm like, well, he met my list, right? So you move on, And so what I started to realize, and I think what everyone should know, and if you are listening to this and you don't know yet, the superficial things are not what will sustain and keep a relationship together. And to your point, when I truly got to know myself and what ticked for me and what is really going to make a relationship work for me, yes, by trial and error of dating a lot of people that maybe checked off some boxes and the resume looked good, I realized that, oh, no, this is what I really need. And, oh, he doesn't need to be like, okay, y'all, what is 6 feet really serving you? Unless you are Michelle Obama and you are 6 feet yourself, what does my little 5'4" self really need to be worried about? How, it's like funny when we think about it. And so
absolutely,
so much is rooted in, oh, well, I just want to look cute in pictures. I want to look up to him. Well, do I want to look up to him while he, driving me crazy?
Because, honey, that's what a list will do. Yeah. A list will drive you crazy. And yes, I used to believe in list. I used to have a list. And then I realized a list is just what it is, a list. You can cross things off and keep going about your day, but that's not going to change who that person is and what they bring to the table. You really have to invest in understanding the value of someone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And the value of yourself, for that matter.
So it's funny because I think it wasn't until about probably like 5 or 6 years ago, it was the first time I encountered a man that had a list. Like, you always hear about women having a list, but one of my ex-boyfriends had a list, and it was literally not too long after our first date and just continuing to get to know each other. He kind of asked about mine, which most men kind of like. And I was like, yeah, I got one. Ha, ha, ha. And he was like, oh, yeah, me too. And I was like, oh, okay. Let's see how you stack up. Brother man had it, y'all. And we cool now. We friends. But I'm like, I should have known you was a little on the touched crazy side. Because he had it typed up.
Oh, no.
He had it typed up. And so he screenshotted it to me. And we went through this. So here I am. I always take men through the list. And now I'm up against, the list myself. And I will fully admit, there were like 2 or 3 that I was like, okay, I'm looking like a 70% over here. And to your point about, though, and truly investing in the person, what ended up happening is I did not meet some of them. Most of his stuff was superficial. 1 or 2 things I feel were rooted in, I wouldn't say they were superficial, but they were definitely rooted in what we typically tend to do, right? Judge people based on certain things, right? And so there were a couple that I was like, yeah, no this, no that. And I was just like, so what you gonna do? This gonna be our last conversation? Or no, I want to keep, But what he even realized, because we're good friends now, even though the relationship did not work out, which further proves that point, right? The lists don't always mean anything. And he had to admit that he was picky. He was picky. And I've been picky before, and realizing that, are these things I should even be picky about? Does it really matter about a college degree? And what's at the root of that, right? And so for me, when I started transitioning from lists to values, was actually through therapy as well. We mentioned therapy. You all are going to hear more podcasts coming from me about the importance of therapy and how it can help you. And so when I was dealing with a lot of relationship issues and I was discussing them in therapy, she was like, okay, you clearly are continuing to attract, because my biggest thing, and I will tell people this in a minute, why are you single? I attract and go after emotionally unavailable men. And so
been there, done that.
Yeah, that's why I'm single, because I continue to attach myself to people who do not want to commit. So that had been my history, right, at a certain point. And so I learned that some of that came down to that list, right? So when it came to values, so I'll take, for instance, one example where she made me examine deeper, right? He has to go to church. Okay, well, what does that mean? It means he got to go to church. What you mean? What it mean? Because that's why I left it, right? So that means if I meet somebody and he don't tell me that he's a card-carrying member to whatever missionary Baptist church, I'm burning rubber. And she was like, no, what does that really mean? Why is it important that he go to church? What are you looking for? What does your faith mean to you? Why do you go to church? Why do you?
Because, honey, a man can go to church, but that don't mean that he love the Lord.
Renee know my history with this. Maybe I'll give y'all this podcast on the few pastors that I have dated who questionable, right? So, yes. And it was actually after one of those relationships I had with a man that was in ministry that we started this conversation, right? Because again, check the list, right? He not only was in church, he was standing in the pulpit. So what went wrong, right? And so what it helped me to see was, okay, what was important to me, right? So my list has changed from needs to be in church to a relationship value for me is a man that has a relationship with God. That's important to me because I want to be with a man who I can trust to lead me, who I can submit to, and who is accountable to God. I want a man who prays because I know the power of prayer. I've seen it in my life. And as far as our relationship goes, I want us to be able to do that together. I want to worship together. It's important for me to be able to share with my partner, man, let's just talk about this sermon we listened to or share in devotionals and both of us grow spiritually together. So when I looked at it from that way, that man could be a person who does not necessarily go to church every Sunday, especially in the age of COVID.
Absolutely.
Ain't none of us going to church now. So look how silly that was to have that, right? We're all virtual now. And so it's about, does he hold himself accountable to God? Does he believe in prayer? And does he want to worship together? And can we have that worship together in our relationship? That's what was important to me, because my faith is important to me. And so that's a value I have. So I need to align with somebody that has that same value, but it's more than just ching ching going to church.
Because a person can go to church, but like I said, that does not mean that they love the Lord. That does not mean that they know how to pray or that they will pray for you. Yes. It just means that they are showing up in church.
Yeah.
But what does that mean past that?
It's like they say, you can stand in a garage, but that don't make you a car.
Right. I never heard that before. That's pretty funny.
Yeah. So, so that's just one example of like when we talk about lists versus values, right? And so then talk about some other superficial ones, right? Tall, dark skin, buff arms. Okay. I had to start breaking that one down too. What's really important? Well, what's really important is that he takes care of himself and he has good hygiene. I don't want no nasty man. That's a non-negotiable. And part of that in taking, a value of mine as a man that takes care of himself. Yes, that speaks to, the reasons that you do say looks and, matter, but it's not necessarily a look like 6 feet, buff arms. It's, is this person taking care of himself? Not everybody is meant to have the body of Idris Elba, just like every woman ain't meant to have the body of Serena Williams. Although I could continue to keep doing lunges and squats, that don't mean I'm going to have her body. So you can't say a certain type is, healthy or whatever over the other. So what I learned, what was important to me is that he had good hygiene, that he took care of himself, right? His clothes aren't slouchy. You know, it don't matter if it's name brand or not. It's just like, does he wear what he wears well? And is he healthy? You know, and does he take care of himself? And is that a priority? I haven't always been great at that, but over the years, my health has become more of a priority. Mm-hmm. And during COVID, you know, I actually went the opposite of what most people did, where I lost weight and I got more into fitness because I started running and working out more from home. And so it is definitely now like a relationship value. I don't see it as superficial anymore. When I, you know, meet and start talking to a guy, I am like, oh, do you work out? What do you do? What kind of activity are you doing during the week? You know, because it's not like, oh, I don't want somebody that's overweight. It's just like, well, health is important for us to have a life together. I want us to live as long as we possibly can. I want us to be able to raise children together. And I, you know, want someone who's healthy and is doing the work to prevent any type of disease that could check him out of here early, just like I'm doing the same thing.
Absolutely.
Okay, wanted to take a quick pause from the episode to tell you a bit about my book, Ordinary Women, Extraordinary Purpose, 21 Ways to Walk Boldly into the Life You Were Created to Live. So I wrote this book back in 2015 after taking a huge leap of faith, selling my downtown Chicago condo and quitting my corporate sales career to pursue entrepreneurship. I bet on myself, and after overcoming so much in life, death, disability, and a dead-end career, I just had to write about it. Ordinary Women, Extraordinary Purpose is an empowering book with personal and practical faith-based career, life, and love strategies. And while I wrote it for women, I will let you in on a little secret that I've had several men share just how much they enjoyed it too, which I love. So this book is for you if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, if you're a single woman who refuses to be defined by your relationship status, if you're a mother who feels like she's lost herself in the midst of raising your children, or you are on search for your purpose, or even if you're a woman in the second act of her life, starting over in a new career, just like I was when I wrote the book. This book is for you. So you can check out my book on the website, travelprayslay.com/shop. Again, the book, Ordinary Women, Extraordinary Purpose, 21 Ways to Walk Boldly into the Life You Were Created to Live, is available on the website, travelprayslay.com/shop. And I can't wait for you to go check it out, and I'll be sure to autograph a copy for you.
I mean, it's so funny because one day I remember I just had this epiphany in the shower, and it just came to me after a long conversation with one of my best friends about relationships. And one of the things that I felt for relationships, that in order for a relationship to work, is that a relationship has to have the following requirements, or like you say, values. You have to have, and you and I have talked about this before, needs, wants, constant communication, honesty, and compromise.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is that needs, you have things that you need. These are your non-negotiables. Your wants are your icings on the cake. And your constant communication, well, that's obvious. You can't have a relationship without communication.
Yes.
And honesty, can you be honest with that person? And can that person in turn be honest with you?
Mm-hmm.
And then compromise. It's not my way or the highway.
Yeah.
It's, can we compromise and come to an understanding of what we both want that's going to make this relationship not just flow, but grow?
Yeah. And that's that partnership piece I'm talking about. Compromise is at the cornerstone to me of partnership. And you spoke of honesty. You know, what's on my list too of value is vulnerability. You know, not only can you be honest with me, but can you be vulnerable with me? And when I say honest, I mean honest. And I tell people, I'm a big girl. I'm a grown woman. Shout out to Beyonce. I can do whatever I like. Y'all know we rock with Jesus and Beyonce on this podcast. So I'm grown. there was a time in my life where I couldn't handle the truth. And I had one of my exes tell me that. He was like, I lie to you because I don't want that reaction. Because the times where I have told you the truth, you have flip mode. And so therapy has helped me to have a more emotional control, because for someone to truly be able to be honest and vulnerable with you, we do have to take ownership of creating an emotionally safe space for that, right? That's been big work that my last relationship taught me, of areas where I could have grown in creating an emotional safety for him to be able to give me more truth. There was a lot of, untruths that he gave me, but having to take that hard look and saying, you know what, did I create a space to where when given the truth, he felt that I didn't react a certain way, I didn't, flip out or whatever, because that's important. And so I want to also make sure that I'm like fostering an atmosphere with my partner to where they can tell me that radical truth. And I mean, like, tell me the ugly truth or whatever. And we have to be continually honest in our relationship, because let's be honest, whether that's about things in your past, whether that's about, like what you just said, what you need, like, hey, this isn't a want, this is a need. And I have to be honest with you that, constant communication is a need for me. So yes, I am that person that even if you can't talk to me every day, I want a text message or whatever, or, full transparency and honesty when it comes to intimacy, and so many relationships end up, getting to an unhealthy place or not working out because people weren't telling the truth. Like, just tell the truth. And if you can't do that, you have to question yourself, and you need to probably do some deeper work in therapy to own your truth and your story. And you also need to question who you're with. Why are you with somebody that you have to lie and put up a front for?
I mean, it's a waste of time. And that's the one thing you'll never get back. So don't waste my time and I won't waste yours. And I mean, really understanding what those needs are and just going back to that, that's very important. That's one of the most important things for me is, as I was dating and, trying to get to know different people when I was single, one of the things that I needed to know is a need for me is I need to have a guy that not only attends church, but like you said, knows Jesus, that will pray with me, that will pray for me, and we will pray together.
Yeah.
We will also attend church together, and we will learn and grow together. Now, I'm not saying we got to go to church every single Sunday, but I am saying that this is important to me. Does that work for you?
Yeah.
And if the answer is no, I'm okay with that. But I'm okay with walking away at that point too. And that's another thing, is you have to be okay with walking away if your needs cannot be met. Because again, you're wasting time, and time is something you're not going to get back.
Absolutely. Another relationship value for me is, again, travel podcasts. Y'all know I love travel. And again, that was another one I had superficial. Oh, girl, if he ain't got no passport, if he ain't left this country, nope, psych, because I need somebody that can travel or whatever. Again, I had to explore that deeper, right? What I really want is someone that's open to adventure. And so adventurous is a relationship value that I have, because there are all kinds of circumstances of why a person could not have gone out of the country yet. There's all kinds of circumstances that could have led to why they haven't traveled extensively, not only financial, family, work. But what's important is, does that person have a sense of adventure and desire, right? And travel isn't just like hopping on a random spontaneous flight or whatever. It could also be a road trip, right? It could also be trying out a new restaurant. And so for me, the reason I love travel so much, I realize, is because I love adventure and new experiences. And so that's a value of mine. And I want to be able to partner with somebody where we can do that together. I know people who are with, partners, and they never travel together. They travel with friends, they travel solo. I know that would not work for me because it's a value of mine. And so that's something I look at now. I don't just ask, well, where all have you traveled to? And is your passport current? I'm like, what's on your bucket list? Or when was the last trip you took? Or, what kind of things do you like to do? Because that gives me an idea of, what, maybe for whatever reason, this person hasn't gone on these trips, but I see they're open to it, and I see that they have that sense of adventure. Because conversely, I've had the person who, they'd have been here, and there. And then we started dating and then we started traveling together. And I'm like, oh, so we went on this trip just for you to sit in the hotel the whole time?
Right.
Or, oh, we just gonna just go to these places that's like right across the street. Where is your adventure? They were content. They traveled. I mean, all over the world, international. But I realized, it's not just the destination and going there for me. It's what we do there. And it's this sense of adventure. That's the value for me.
Yeah, I like that. And that's the only way that you're going to be able to find out those things are to ask those hard questions. Mm-hmm. You have to be specific in what you're asking and not be afraid of the answers that you're going to get. Yeah. And if they disappoint you or they're not the answers that you're looking for, again, being okay with walking away.
Yeah.
I mean, my boyfriend now I asked him tough questions.
Yeah.
I'm like, I refuse to be 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road, not having answers to the questions that are important for me.
Baby, we rebuke that.
Right. Right. I was like, look, these are the things that I'm looking for. These are my needs. This is what's important to me. How do you feel about those? Does that work for you? If so, how? If not, why? Just asking those tough questions and really asking, not just asking the questions, but digging a little deeper.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that I'm not hearing what I want to hear. Mm-hmm. And that he's not saying what I want him to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so now that you are in this relationship, do you feel that it's a healthy relationship? And with that, what do you feel are the key components of a healthy relationship? Because we can all have boyfriends, girlfriends, partners, etc. And it can be toxic AF.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And unhealthy.
It can definitely be that.
So I know about your boyfriend and that it's a healthy relationship. So, tell everyone else, what do you feel those key components are that make this a healthy relationship this time versus the ones before?
So, a couple of things that make it a healthy relationship is one of the things you said earlier is that you want to be with someone that is emotionally available. I went for a lot of men that were not emotionally available. And so he and I discussed that in the beginning. And one of the things that I said to him is, are you prepared to date? Not just, are you emotionally available? That's an easy question to ask. And you may get a good answer to that. You may not. But just kind of understanding that and talking that through. What does that mean for you? How are you emotionally available? When was your last relationship? Why did you break up? And just exploring those things. So he's emotionally available to me. He makes me a priority. There are a lot of things in the past of guys that I've dated that I did not feel like I was the priority. He makes time for me. And I used to make the excuse of, oh, he's busy. He's this, he's that. No. If a person wants to be with you, they will be with you. They will make time for you.
Interested people act interested.
There you go, sis. There you go.
Carry on.
He has happiness within himself. He's happy. He's healed. He's whole and holy. So he has all of those things. And we have talked about those things as well, too, in detail. He understands my love language. He's not perfect in that, but he is working towards that. And he understands what's important to me. And I understand his love language. I am also happy with myself. I am healed, whole, holy, and happy. So all of the things that I'm saying that are values for me or what's making my relationship healthy, having healthy components, all the things that I'm saying that he brings to the table, those are also things that I bring to the table.
Yeah.
He adds value to my life. And when I say that this man adds value to my life, health and wellness is very important to me this year. It's actually one of my major goals this year.
I'm just going to interrupt this to let y'all know Renee ran a marathon no more than 6 months ago. She had never ran before in her life, y'all, and she ran a whole marathon. So just, yes, she know I'm so proud of her.
Thank you. And I ran it on a treadmill, no less.
Yes, because hashtag COVID.
Right. It wouldn't let me be great or greater. So he definitely believes in my health and wellness and supports that. He's all about health and wellness. And and he's taught me some new things. That's one of the things that I just love about him, is that he teaches me and introduces me to so many new things. And I can see that he cares about me and the things that he brings to me. Like, a good example is, I've been talking, this is probably a little too much information, but I will share this. I've been talking recently to him about having a lot of mucus in the morning. I'm like, oh my God, babe, I've got so much mucus going on in the morning and sometimes at night, and it's driving me crazy. So he was like, and I mean, he will look something up if he don't know the answer to it. And so he was like, you need to drink lime juice. I was like, okay, whatever. And so he's been on me. So finally he was like, he sent me this post that referenced lime juice, and this girl was saying to drink it as well too. And then he brought me lime juice and I put it in my water, and I've been drinking it, and it's been helping me. So he's like, oh, how's your sinus? Like, he'll pick up on that and like, how's your sinuses doing? Or how are you feeling? How do you feel like you have more mucus? And he checks in and things of that sort. So those are just some of the key components that have brought healthiness to this relationship, and why that I feel it's a healthy relationship.
I think those are great. So I was taking notes. And so in summary, again, we're talking about components of a healthy relationship. We've talked about the importance of loving God, loving yourself, doing away with the superficial, really focusing on values and what's important for you. And so you get the guy, you get the girl, you're ready, you're in it now. That healthy relationship. And what Renee said a healthy relationship looks like: 1, they're emotionally available. 2, they are happy within themselves and healed within themselves. And both of these apply to yourself as well, right? You have to be emotionally available. And then you also have to be happy and healthy. Number 3, they understand your love languages and your needs. So whether you want to call them needs, and whether you want to call them your love languages, that is so important that they understand them, and they may not meet them 100% of the time. But if your love languages is gifts, at some point in the time that you're dating, you should be receiving some gifts, even if it's not weekly gifts. Something, and if you've expressed that, that person knows that, right? And then you also said adds value. I love that Lettucey song. How you gonna add to me? Yeah, yeah. How you gonna add to me? So that's important, right? Does this I ain't no singer, y'all, so don't be hating. Does this person truly add value to me? And what you talked about is them being supportive and showing you new things, new experiences. And lastly, which is so important, showing their care and concern, showing that they care about you, showing that they're concerned. If you're saying, I feel like I'm growing an 8th toe, that they go,
What happened to 6, 7?
I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Sorry. They say they're growing a 6th toe. Then they're going to be like, okay, babe, we need to get you down to the WebMD and figure out what's going on and go to the doctor, right? And so care, concern, emotionally available, happy, healed, understanding your love language and your needs, and adding value. So good. Such good stuff, Renee. Before we wrap up this conversation, which has been so great, I really hope everyone has gotten everything out of it. As we've said already during the course of our conversation, the core values of this podcast are travel, Jesus, and Beyonce. So I always like to ask people 2 questions. What was your favorite trip and why? And what is your favorite Beyonce song and why?
My favorite trip was probably, I would say, to London. And the reason being is because I've always wanted to go. And I got to experience it, even though it was a work trip, it was also personal because my boss was from the UK and he's Welsh. And so he was able to take us around London and all the other places that we went to. And he was literally a tour guide. And we also had personal time that we used. So we extended after work. We took some personal time for it. And I had the best time. Like went shopping and he took us to like this hole in the wall to get fish and chips. And it was the best fish and chips I ever had in my entire life. We went to a Broadway. Well, I don't know if they call it Broadway there, but whatever I think they call it Broadway there.
Yeah. Theater.
We went to the theater and saw a Broadway show. I mean, I literally we went like on a tour and saw like Buckingham Palace. And so that was like the best trip for me because I had someone that was from there to really show me around. So that's my best trip. And what was the other one?
Your favorite Beyonce song, man.
Oh, my favorite Beyonce song. Can I narrow it down to one?
I know. It's so hard. I got 2, so don't feel bad.
My most favorite Beyonce song is Dangerously in Love. That is just such a beautiful song to me. And the way she sings it. And I used to sing it like at the top of my lungs in the car and just be jamming to it. So that is my favorite Beyonce song is Dangerously in Love. It's so much so a favorite. I think it's probably one of her favorites too. And the reason why I say that is because she did it on, I think it was the Destiny's Child album maybe first. And then she turned around and remade it and did it on her own album.
Look at you with the Beyonce facts. Okay, sis, I will have to kick you out of our friendship. Yeah, from my remembrance, it was a bonus track on that last Destiny's Child album. And then it was one of the tracks on her first album. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. And I mean, again, we've been talking about love and relationships. So I don't know if being dangerously in love is really healthy, Beyonce. We're going to have to talk about that. But you know what? When I think about the lyrics, what she says, I am in love with you. You set me free. Mm-hmm. And, you know, so much about what we've been talking about and, you know, everything, there should be this sense of freedom when you are in a happy and healthy relationship. So perfect Beyonce song. And so thank you so much, Renee, for joining me. Tell everyone how they can find you on social media, how they can check out your webcast, and where they can purchase your book.
So they can find me on any social media platform, and that would be Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at A Beauty Scarlet. That's at, and then the, sign and the letter A Beauty Scarlet. So at A Beauty Scarlet. Okay. And that's 1 T for Scarlet. And they can find my book on Amazon, or they can email me and I can show them where to purchase it because my website is going through some maintenance right now. So I don't have my website up, but they can also email me if they want a copy of the book, and I'll be more than happy to charge them for it and send it to them.
Awesome. We will put your email address and everything in the show notes. Tell us the name of the book again.
The book is #I'm Beauty Inspired. It's a keepsake journal of original beauty quotes and affirmations for women and girls to embrace their inner beauty and apply more self-love.
Awesome. I love it. Thanks again. So we want to know what you got out of this podcast. I want to know what are some of your relationship values. Tell us about your journey to self-love and empowered, and I want to hear your like horror stories too. We told y'all some of our crazy dating stories and drama. I want to hear some of that too. And until next time, have a good one. Thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to check out the show notes, you can head over to the website, travelprayslay.com. I would love to connect on social media, so be sure you are following me on Instagram at travelprayandslay and Facebook at travelprayslay. Again, Instagram is at travelprayandslay. And if you love this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And be sure to leave a review. Thanks for listening, and you'll hear from me soon.